tornadoes. Say we don't care for done, no sir. I say we don't care for done, no sir. Jaja bring forth tornadoes. Na 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 na, bring forth milk and tornadoes. Let the newsmen write what they wanna write.
Shalom, wa baraka, mispaka, peace and blessings, family. Hurrah, Be'ahab to the 12 tribes scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. In this video, I will present three main points. First, I will prove that many land masses, tribes, and territories of the Americas have Hebrew and Aramaic origins. Second, I will show you the very many Hebraic and Egyptian artifacts that were found here in the Americas. And third, I will provide geological and biblical evidence such as mountains, rivers, trees, climates, and biblical sources to further carry out my point. So let's get right into it, shall we? Mexico. Considering the fact that the X in Mexico was originally pronounced as H, it is safe to conclude that it originated from the Aramaic word Meshika, which means anointed. In Hebrew, it is Mashiach. Mexicans was also another term for the Tenochas and Lachicolas, which were two ancient Aztec tribes in Mexico. Cuba. Cuba is pronounced exactly like the Hebrew word Cuba, which means large tent or dwelling place. It is ironically the largest island in the Caribbean. Haiti. Haiti was originally spelled Hayti. Many of the aboriginals of the surrounding islands did not refer to them as Haitians, but as Hittites, which sounds a lot like Hittites. This does not mean that all the people of Haiti are descended from ancient Hittites, but it does denote that Haiti was probably a land that the Hittites dwelled in at one point. But the belief that Haiti means hell is false. Hades is hell in Greek, but not in French, which was the language the Haitian colonizers spoke. Hell in French is enfer. This is an excerpt from a book known as Christopher Columbus and a Participation of the Jews, page 98. It reads as follows: the language of the Indians in Hispaniola, Cuba, and Jamaica, and the adjoining islands. He contends that it has many resemblances to Hebrew. In fact, he even calls it corrupted Hebrew. He asserts that such names as Cuba and Haiti are Hebrew. Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico means port of riches in Spanish, but the locals of the island, most of which are actual descendants of the Taino Indians, mixed with European, call the island Bariqua. They get this word from the Taino Indians, who are Israelites, by the way. It is a Hebrew word which means blessing or blessed land. This is why in the beginning of my videos I say Shalom wa baraka mispaka. That phrase means peace and blessings, family. In the ancient Assyrian language, Koa or Ka means land or dwelling place, just like Cuba means dwelling place in Hebrew. It's just the same difference between mom, mother, and mama. You might only use one, but you know what they all mean. The Assyrian language was Akkadian, which was basically Aramaic. It was so similar to Hebrew, the Israelites most likely spoke it, even after the Assyrian captivity. This is why the Hebrew language changed up so much, due to all of our different captivities. Imagine a conversation between an American who speaks English and a Jamaican who also speaks English. They will both sound very different and use different words, but they will still understand each other. Jamaica. Yeah, we talking about Jamaica now. Jamaica was originally spelled Xamayca. Wait, I know what you're thinking. How am I even supposed to pronounce that? Well, just like in Mexico, the X is originally pronounced SH. So, the original pronunciation was Shemaica. Shemai means to listen or to be heard in Hebrew. Again, Ka means land. So, Shemaica might literally mean land of Shamayon or Simeon. According to Genesis 29 and 33, the name Simeon meant to be heard. Peru. According to Exodus 3 and 8, our land will be a huge land flowing with milk and honey, which means it would be known for its resources, not a small dry area in the Middle East. And in order to occupy the land, we had to expel the native inhabitants. There were many of them: the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, and the Perizzites. How could all these races fit in such a small area in the Middle East? Many do not know that Peru actually comes from the Hebrew word para, meaning be fruitful. However, in modern Hebrew, the term be fruitful is literally pronounced Peru. What's even more surprising is the fact that there is a city in Peru known to the locals as Jerusalem, and another place known as Sumeria. Don't believe me? Just search it up on Google Maps. And if you think about it, it could very well be possible that all post-Abrahamic history that you read in the Old Testament could have taken place right here on this side of the earth. I am not only saying that because I live in America, but because there's a lot of information here that supports it. According to Jubilees 8 and 19, Zion is the navel or belly button of the world, meaning the land has a mother-child relationship with the Most High. There is a place in Peru that is now called Cusco, and it literally translates to navel of the world. Josephus' description of Jerusalem stated that Jerusalem had 3 walls with forts known as citadel. Sacasayawam, near Cusco, Peru, is described the exact way. It has Milo. It is written about in the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 5 and verse 9. In the Quechan language, it is Mayuk or Mayuk Marca. It is round, just as described in 2 Samuel 5 and 9. Christopher Columbus wrote a book called Book of Prophecies. This book sleeps today in a major Spanish library called Biblioteca Colombiana. In this book, Columbus admits that he was trying to recover the Holy City and Mount Zion. He also was wanting to convert all the islands of the Indies into Christianity for Ferdinand and Isabella, the rulers of Spain. The Americas in general. Many people believe that the Americas was named after the Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci. That's another lie to hide the identity of the Aboriginal Israelites of this land. The first 3 letters of the word America, A-M-E, AIM, means mother in Hebrew. Ka means land in ancient Assyrian. That's for you to put together, mother plus land. What do you think? Hebrew artifacts found in the Americas. The first example of this is the Hopewell tribes. The Hopewell tribes of North America constructed numerous stone structures known as mounds. These mound-building tribes were Hebrew-speaking Israelites without a shadow of a doubt. How do I know, you may ask? Well, it is quite obvious, and it doesn't even take a genius to figure it out. There was an enormous Hebrew mound just south of Fayetteville, Ohio, that was later destroyed in the early 1900s. But the big question is, why was this monument destroyed in the first place? The answer is unknown, but it is most likely that they are attempting to hide this great truth from us. Fortunately, before the mound was demolished, a man by the name of Isaac Roberdeau drew a map of the mound in bird's eye view. In this drawing, you can see 9 candlesticks, a compass which signifies navigation, and a Hebrew oil lamp. During the destruction of this mound, they missed a very important part, the Hebrew letter Shem. The reason they missed it is because it wasn't on Robert E's map drawing. In other words, since they didn't know about it, they could not destroy it. In Newark, Ohio, in 1860, a man named David Ryrick was digging into a mound when he found an oak coffin, and inside it a skeleton of a person holding a box less than 9 inches in size. Although it was cemented shut, he was still able to open it. And when he opened the box, he saw a small man with an afro who appeared to be holding 2 tables of stone. Around the man was a writing that they could not understand. Neither could they read, but they considered it to be a type of Hebrew. Almost 20 years later, they were lucky enough to find some Jewish rabbis in the area. So they went to them to see if they can identify it. The rabbis were in fact able to read it, and they identified it as a form of block Hebrew. Another Hebrew artifact in Coshocton, Ohio, called the Keystone, is an arrowhead-shaped block with 4 inscribed sides. Each side says something different in Hebrew. On one side says King of the Earth. Another side says Word of Adawan. Another side says Laws of Yahweh. And the other side says Holy of Holies. Another artifact was found on Cherokee territory. It is known as the Bat Creek Stone. It was uncovered during a mandatory Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand writing. Since it was found in Cherokee land, it was originally dismissed as Cherokee writing. They had no clue at all that it was Phoenician Hebrew. They published pictures of this strange artifact upside down and titled it as Cherokee writing. Almost a decade later, a scholar took it out of the box and informed the museum officials that it had been published upside down, and he let them know that the writing was in fact Phoenician Hebrew. South of Albuquerque and west of Lunis, New Mexico, an ancient inscription was carved into the face of a boulder centuries ago. It is the text of the 10 Commandments written in Hebrew. Of particular interest is the fact that this type of Hebrew writing was Paleo-Hebrew, which is a form of Hebrew that was used for approximately a 1,000-year period ending at about 500 BC. How far-fetched is the idea that the Paleo-Hebrew was spoken solely in the Americas during the 1,000-year period? Even more so, how far-fetched is the idea that our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob settled in the Americas in search for the land of Canaan? Egyptian artifacts found in the Americas in a cave of the Grand Canyon known as the Kincaid's Cave. There was a golden shrine for the Egyptian pharaoh named Khayan. Khayan was an important pharaoh. He was recorded as a descendant of Zaphnath-Paaneah. And if you have never heard of Zaphnath-Paaneah, take a close look at Genesis 41 and 45. Yes, Zaphnath is the Egyptian name for Joseph, the son of our ancestor, Jacob. So could this mean that the 12 sons of Jacob existed on this side of the earth? In that same cave of the Grand Canyon, another Egyptian artifact was found. This particular image was a highly important discovery for the Smithsonian. It was an artifact for King Akhenaton and Queen Nefertiti. Also, in that very same cave were 2 golden head statues of King Akhenaton and Queen Nefertiti with other small golden idols. They are now on display at the Smithsonian Institute of Washington, D.C. There are also many other Egyptian artifacts found right in the Kincaid's Cave alone. Now, if you were to take a close look at the peaks of the Grand Canyon, you would probably see that they are not your average mountain peaks. but step pyramids, similar to the ones in Mesoamerica. They have just endured serious erosion. If you were to look at pyramids such as the Isis temple, you might not be able to tell that it is a pyramid right away. But there are other pyramids near the Grand Canyon that just give themselves away. The pyramids of Giza and the Grand Canyon pyramids are on the same line of latitude, which means they are almost equally distant from the North Pole, and they are on the opposite ends of the Earth. It's almost like someone is copying someone else. So a good question would be, which ones are really more ancient and which ones are new or even fake? Many Egyptian artifacts were found in Illinois as well. There are now many ancient Egyptian artifacts from the Skillet Fork Cavern Complex that are still not on public display at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., even though they were found by the Smithsonian archaeologists. These gold artifacts were found in a tomb for one of the kings from the Egyptian tomb in southern Illinois. The Egyptian gold coin on his empire is on the center right. 2 diamonds and Shemetic symbols for a sun of the right hand is at the bottom right of this artifact in this picture. Geological support. Rivers and trees. The Euphrates. The so-called Euphrates River of the Middle East cannot possibly be the real Euphrates River for one big reason. It does not fit the biblical description. The book of Genesis chapter 2 describes the Euphrates River as being just a head of a much larger river with 3 other heads. The Euphrates of the Mid-East is a lone river with no other heads, but it does connect at the mouth with another river, which is indeed the counterfeit Tigris River. Egyptian Sea and the Red Sea. In Isaiah 11 and 15, the Most High points out the 7 streams of the Egyptian Sea. The Egyptian Sea of Africa does not have 7 streams, and it never did. We can also conclude that no stream ever flowed into it at all for a number of reasons. The elevation of the land around the sea just wouldn't allow streams to flow into it. Rivers always start in high altitude regions, usually in mountain ranges. The closest mountain range to the sea is in the Mesopotamian area. The river of this area is the fake Euphrates River, which started in the highest point of the mountain just east of Turkey. It began to flow southeast, and so did the Tigris. But why didn't the rivers just flow into the Red Sea? Like I mentioned previously, the terrain just would not allow. That just goes to show that the Red Sea, Tigris, and Euphrates are just counterfeit bodies of water with relatively new names. According to the 16th century maps made by Gerardus Mercator, the so-called Red Sea was originally named Sinus Arabicus, which translates to Arabian Gulf. No major sea in the world has a river that flows into it with exactly 7 heads, except for the Gulf of Mexico. A major river flows into the Gulf of Mexico, known as the Mississippi River, no pun intended. And it has exactly 7 heads: the Red River, the Arkansas River, the Missouri River, the Illinois River, the Ohio River, the Tennessee River. And the body of all these rivers are connected to the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River and its heads has been drying up extremely. Just like the prophecy states, these streams of the Mississippi have dried up severely over the years. It has dried up so much that Native American tribes like the Cherokee were able to walk across it during the Trail of Tears. Isaiah 11 and 15 does say that men shall go over it dry shod. meaning with dry shoes. It is now only 1/5 of the size it was only a few centuries ago. Even though the Mississippi River has gotten smaller, it is now a fact that the Gulf of Mexico has gotten much larger every year. But during the time of Moses, it was most likely a smaller sea, mostly compassed by dry land. Therefore, it can be concluded that the authentic Egyptian Sea is actually the so-called Gulf of Mexico. The Egyptian Sea is not the same as the Red Sea, which was split for passage during the Exodus from Mitzrayim. The true Red Sea is most likely the California Gulf. This can be confirmed because according to Genesis and Exodus, the children of Israel dwelt in Goshen just before the Exodus. Goshen was an Egyptian country that was very successful due to its quick access to the Nile River. The Nile River is actually in Arizona, which will be proven later on in this presentation. Also, as I mentioned before, the Egyptian pharaoh Kayan, who was documented as a descendant of Zephnath-Pianah, has a statue that was found in the Grand Canyon, which is in Arizona. And Arizona is actually close to the California Gulf. And Joseph himself must have lived near because his mummy was carried out of Egypt as well. A lot of what we call the United States today is actually ancient Egypt. Egyptian artifacts are found by the hundreds in this very country. Not only that, but the US still has Egyptian names for some of its major cities. Memphis is a prime example of this. And let's not forget that Philadelphus was king over Egypt from 283 to 246 BCE. And what does Philadelphus sound like? The Nile River. According to Isaiah 19, verse 4 through 7, the Egyptian river, also known as the Nile River, will be utterly dried up, and all the plants around it will die. But if you look at the so-called Nile River in Africa, it is extremely beautiful. I would even visit it if I had the money, but too bad it is not our people's land. But do you know which river used to fill up its banks and sometimes even overflowed, but is now hundreds of feet beneath ground level? A river that used to teem with life, but is now home to nothing but dirt, rocks, and algae? The Grand Canyon. The same place where the majority of those Egyptian artifacts and pyramids were found. Our Creator does not lie. The Nile River is actually the Grand Canyon. Climate. It is evident that different continents have different climates. The Book of Jubilees describes this perfectly. In Jubilees 8 and 30, it tells you that the land of Ham, or Africa, is hot, and the land of Japheth, or Eurasia, is cold, and the land of Shem is mixed with both cold and heat. This scripture is an equation, and we must solve for x, and the x is the land of Shem. The Jerusalem that they want you to claim is in Northeast Africa, still technically in the land of Ham. The Middle East snows occasionally, but overall the climate is hot. So where is the real land of Shem? The land mixed with hot and cold, a temperate and stable land. A land that will freeze you one day and cook you the next. A land that forces its civilians to come out of the house with a winter coat and summer pants on at the same time. The climate there just can't seem to make up its mind. What is this land? The land of hurricanes and tornadoes. The land of wildfires and blizzards in the exact same month of the year. This land is the Americas. The Americas is the true land of Shem, according to the climate description in Jubilees chapter 8. Trees. The cedars of Lebanon are described in many scriptures, especially Isaiah 2 and 13, as extremely large and tall trees, larger than any other trees on earth after the flood. The trees of the modern day fictitious Lebanon or any other place in the Middle East don't grow much taller than 132 feet, not even half as tall as the redwood cedars of California, which can grow to be about 380 feet tall and weigh more than 1.6 million pounds. Mountains. The current state of Israel does have several mountain ranges, but the land is still relatively flat compared to the land around it. It is obvious that the scriptures talk about mountain ranges a lot, especially Mount Zion. The Mount Zion of the current state of Israel is barely even a mountain. It's just a pathetic small hill. Isaiah 10 and 12 denotes Mount Zion as a hill, but Isaiah 40 and 9 also denotes it as a high mountain. So picture a hill with Zion sitting upon it and a mountain just around it. One final thing that I want to show you is this book I'm reading called The Greater Exodus. It was published in 1903. This is the preface. But the author ventures to make the apparently bold suggestion that the original migration took the opposite direction. Notice it said bold suggestion, meaning that this dude is crazy for thinking this. It also says the proper and original home of the Shemetic races is America.